In this video, I'll answer your questions on the most valuable audience. Is it 100,000 Instagram followers or 10,000 email subscribers? We'll talk about if you should buy an email list to add to your newsletter or kickstart your newsletter. And we'll also talk about if you could only pick one way to monetize your audience, what would that be? If you're new here, my name is Matt. I've helped newsletters, creators, media companies add over 10 million email subscribers and over $100 million in sales. And in these videos, we answer your questions from YouTube and our community.
All right, audience question here. I've got a few ideas to start my first newsletter. How do you recommend testing whether a newsletter idea is really worth pursuing before investing months into it? Should I test a few ideas at once and see what really clicks? Or should I just go headfirst into one for a few months and see where it takes me?
I think you should figure out and try and have some more conviction on what your idea is. I think this question is something we get a lot from someone who thinks newsletters are interesting, but they don't really have something they're truly passionate about or that a topic that they truly know well or are an expert in. So I think one thing is like take a step back and start thinking about how can you become an expert in something? What do you truly care about? What do you want to learn more about? Are you reading, like, what are you listening to podcasts about? What are you reading books about? What other newsletters are you reading? What topics are there? And continue to improve and expand your knowledge, because like people are signing up for your knowledge as a writer. And so if you don't have a great information diet, you're going to produce stuff that's pretty crappy. And you're going to struggle to answer this question no matter what I tell you. So that's step number one, is just start learning more. And then step number two is don't think about it as what should my newsletter be about? Think about it as what should my content be about? So what I would do is pick like a broad title for your newsletter, because you can always change it later. It could just be like Matt's newsletter. And you could pick some broad topics that you cover. But don't worry about publishing the newsletter right now. Start publishing to one discovery channel where it's a lot easier to get eyeballs on your content. LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, etc. And start publishing content there around various topics that you care about and see what resonates, see what questions you get. Talk to those people who ask you questions or comment on your post and ask them what else they want to see. And then as you keep going down through that process, eventually you'll figure out that niche and what beats and what angles work for you.
All right. What's more valuable, 10,000 email subscribers or 100,000 Instagram followers?
This is a fun question. I think 10,000 email subscribers 100% of the time. Assuming that's all you can have, like you're stuck with that and you can only have one, right? Because if you could have both, of course you take both. But yeah, I think people don't know until you've experienced this or you've been behind the scenes in a business who has this, how valuable an engaged email audience is. And you can build a multi-million dollar per year business with 10,000 of the right email subscribers who care about your content. That's not guaranteed of Instagram, or it's a lot harder to do it. Now, maybe someone could say, hey, I can use Instagram to get 10,000 email subscribers. That's awesome. That's not what I'm talking about here. We're talking about you have to pick one. So yeah, I would pick 10,000 email subscribers over 100,000 Instagram followers, over 50,000 YouTube subscribers, probably over 200,000 or 300,000 TikTok followers any day of the week, because you're going to be able to monetize that audience way more effectively.
All right, shifting gears here. How do you feel about buying lists? And where do you even go to get started with that? How do you price it out in terms of buying newsletter lists to grow your own?
Yeah, so this person wanted to ask us, like, should I buy an email list so I can kickstart my newsletter, my business, and I have like a starting audience to send emails to share my content with? And my answer to that is always no. It's almost always a horrible idea to try and go out and buy an email list or buy another newsletter to roll it into your newsletter to start sending to. It just doesn't work. They don't think about it from like a psychological standpoint. Like, you want to have an audience. Everybody wants an audience, but an audience is someone who knows, likes, and trusts you. And if you just bought their email address and started sending them stuff without them intentionally signing up for that thing, they don't know, like you, or trust you. I mean, maybe that affects their perception of you very negatively too. It's almost always a waste of money. There are some elite people who already have very successful businesses and they really know email and email marketing super well who can pull it off, but that's not most people listening to this. So I would never do it, even though these lists can sell at like 25 cents to $1 per email. They're not valuable to you because they're not intentional signups. That intention and how relevant your content is to what they want matters so much, and how you're going to make money from them. That's why organic subscribers who really saw your content on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and then sign up for your newsletter are so much valuable than someone who just saw an ad and then decided it might be a good fit for them and they'll try it out. So never buy a list to start, probably never buy a list at all. And that's based on my experience actually doing that myself. I bought like a list of 3,000, didn't work out very well. And I've seen a lot of other people fail doing it as well.
All right. How do you think about content posting frequency versus content quality? Where do most founders get this balance wrong?
You can have, quality through quantity. So it should always be about quantity first. That said, a lot of people who are just starting to build an audience online will often overcommit themselves, just like people kind of overcommit to like a diet and exercise routine. I'm going to work out 7 days a week and eat 10 calories. And they do it for 3 days and they go back to like eating way too much when they would have been better off having a more moderate approach. So for those starting, I think a moderate approach that is achievable over like 90 days consistently makes sense. So 3 posts a week on one platform like Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever for 90 days, that's great. But as you grow, getting to 5, 7 posts a week on the social platforms makes sense. Now on YouTube, it's a little bit different. Podcast is different because it just takes more production, it's longer form. And so it's hard to do more than 1 or 2 quality videos per week, but you do need to get there if you're starting to grow an audio audience or a video audience on YouTube.
All right. So we had this question in our community group this week. How do I avoid last minute changes from sponsors? Specifically in the last 2 weeks, a sponsor pulled out from 2 issues. They'd already signed the contract, but had not paid yet. First email it was supposed to go less than a week and before they'd canceled. What's kind of best practice around this? Is it just part of the game? How should I begin to work through this?
Yeah, it all comes down to setting the expectations in the emails before you send the contract, and then your wording in the contract. And I'm not talking about fine print. I'm talking about things you make very clear in the contract about how this works. To a degree, it is part of the game, where people have things come up, or maybe they get lazy and they didn't complete the ad creative or the requirements. But at the same time, you have to mitigate that, and you can mitigate that almost completely with expectations and contract language in your IO. And IO just means insertion order. It just means that's a contract for an advertisement placement. That's what an IO is. So yeah, you need to have like a cancellation window in the insertion order. And so like you can't cancel the ad. You can cancel the ad or move the ad up to 14 days before, but no later than that. That's one. You need to get ideally 100% of the fee for the ad after someone signs the insertion order. So for our IOs, payment is due upon signing or within 7 days upon signing. If you can't get that done, try and get at least 50%, because that just protects you more if someone tries to pull out completely. That's for a cancellation. And then you got to discuss actual timelines and just make it clear when things are due there. Okay, the insertion, like you agreed to this placement, you need to sign the insertion order now. You need to submit payment within 7 days after signing or less. You need to give us the ad creative or review our creative, or I should say complete our creative brief, which is like a Q&A with them about what the ad is about. Complete that 14 days before the ad is due, and you cannot change the ad date after 14 days or after 10 days, for example. And then you can also just be honest and tell them like, it hurts us when you pull out or cancel ad placements because we cannot get another advertiser last minute. We're working with people 30, 60 days out. And so if you do that once, we won't work with you again. And you could say this, in the email that you send along with the contract, so every expectation is clear up front. I'm sure there's a way to make that more concise, but that's basically what I would do.
All right. What shift in the media or newsletter landscape do you see coming that most founders are really completely unprepared for?
Yeah, I think the shifts that we don't see coming are the ones that are going to hurt us most. And that is probably all around AI, because I think everybody's trying to wrap their head around that, but they're not really sure what it means. Like, I think some people think everything's going to be AI generated, and the critics of that call that like AI slop, and that content creators and publishers are going to be completely displaced. And then some people are like non-AI purist, where they refuse to use AI, and they like actively think that like that's people are not going to want anything AI generated, and they're only going to want human generated content. So you kind of have these like tribal camps forming, where it's like everything's going to be AI generated, publishers and creators are useless, or people don't want any AI generated stuff, and like we're going to label our content no AI and never use AI in any of our processes. And the truth is obviously somewhere in the middle. I think it's about how do you use AI as like a thinking partner, a research partner, an editor? How do you train AI on your past content, on your customer demographics, on the surveys you have, on the products you have? So when you're writing stuff, you can ask it questions and help you write better stuff. Kind of like how people use Google, but just in a way more advanced and in a way more powerful way. That's what we're trying to do. And so I think I don't think there's going to be a line between AI generated and non-AI generated. I think things are just going to be blended, because everybody's going to use AI, and it's going to kind of merge in some way. Just like there's not like articles where it's like 100% no research from Google. Like there's no articles or content like that. I think AI is going to be the same way. Maybe this isn't a shift, but I think something that people aren't prepared for is that the social platforms are really not as useful as a lot of people think, and a lot of people spend a ton of time on places like Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, trying to make those work to like build an audience there and maybe get them on their email list or do something with them, monetize them. I think that's where you have like a conversation with your audience and kind of build a community and be talking about current events and be in the conversation with the internet. But I don't think that's where you build a true audience. I think you build a true audience only on 3 digital channels right now, and that's email through newsletters. So kind of like the way I put it is newsletters are the new magazines and newspapers. People are going to go deep and really read in-depth, valuable content in email. They already do. Then there's YouTube. YouTube is the new TV. I think that's obvious. There's more TV watch time spent on YouTube than any streaming service. And so people go deep on long form videos. And then podcasts are the new radio. People are listening to, I think like 50% of people in the US listen to over 5 to 8 podcasts per week. And you can build a really loyal audience that truly understands you and knows you through podcast. So my take is if you're not mastering at least one of those channels, ideally 2 of those channels, you're going to really have a hard time building an audience that actually cares about you, because there's going to be more and more noise in information and content online that's going to distract people if you're just on social media.
All right. So follow up on that, actually. How do you specifically think about building community, whether that's on a platform, even outside of your list, but like, how do you specifically think about engaging your audience, building that community more than just numbers behind a dashboard?
Yeah, I think most people shouldn't plan to build a community from day one. A lot of people have preconceived notions about communities. They're like, hey, if I have an audience and I start like a community, people will join, then I'll have this like other channel I can reach them with, and like we'll have all these great conversations, we'll have this super thriving community, and then I can charge, $10, $100 a month for that community. Like that is a really hard business model. I would not pursue at all. But I would think about the audience that you're writing to or publishing content to. I would think about them as community. And I would probably I like to use the word community to describe our audience instead of audience, because that's what I feel like it is. And that's what I feel like you should strive to have. So I like the framework from Greg Eisenberg, ACP, so audience, community, product. So you publish content, you build an audience, turn that audience into community, and then you monetize that community and audience with a product. I don't think the way you build a community is by like having a private Discord or Slack group or something like that. I think the way you build it is by publishing to the social channels or YouTube and then constantly engaging with that audience. I think you should also have a list of like 10, 20 other people who you admire, who you want to connect with, and start engaging on their YouTube videos, their posts, commenting on their stuff, and just have a discussion. So kind of treat whatever social platform you use, and usually LinkedIn and Twitter are better for this, but treat those platforms like just a big community, and don't just post and ghost. Like go in, reply to your comments, DM people who DM you, and comment on other people. And so you feel like it's more of a community discussion than just a place that you throw content at and just hope people see it. So that's my take on communities. And I think if you do that over time, you will build a community. And after you have a large audience, after you've probably sold another product successfully, then you can consider adding a community, like an online community, as one of the features to your product. So maybe if you have a course, you could add a community to that, or you have a membership, you could add a community, etc. So what I'm trying to say is like, don't just start a Discord group, build that community on social, sell them a product, and over time add a community feature to that product.
All right, audience question from YouTube here. I've found my niche. I want to sell some sort of digital product to moms specifically, thinking around $100, an approachable price point. Specifically here, kind of pretty broad, but what product should I create, and how do you begin to think about niching down in terms of a product?
Well, your approach is completely backwards. So you're thinking about, okay, I want to sell it to moms. Maybe you're a mom too, which is awesome. And what type of product should you create? So what you want to think about is what problems does your ideal customer have? So your ideal customer is moms, but what are they dealing with? Because people only buy products, especially media products and digital products, when they solve a painful problem. And so you need to think about what problem is this going to solve, and then create the product that can solve that problem consistently for your customer. So it could be sleep training newborn babies. That's a big problem that moms and dads. Could be postpartum Could be pregnancy. I mean, there's hundreds of problems that moms face that are not, childhood related, but they could be, that you could solve through some type of media product. And so I would pick one that is, both painful and able to be solved with some type of media product, assuming that's what you're creating, right? So like a course, a coaching program, digital product, membership, etc. Maybe moms feel isolated because when they have kids, they see their friends less, and maybe they get to spend less time with their spouse too. So there's like a big app company called Peanut that's kind of like not a dating app, but like a dating style UI where you swipe, but it's just about making friends who are other moms who also have young kids, and you can set up play dates and all that stuff. So like that's an example of a digital product that solved a real problem that moms have. And so that's what you need to think about. If you figure out the problem and a true solution to it, and you build an audience, you're going to do fine.
And I would just add on to that. If you already have a newsletter list of even 1,000 people or a couple hundred, ask your own audience. You'll see what problems come up and what people are struggling with, whether that's on social media or your own newsletter. Just email everybody and ask, what problem are you trying to achieve? And that'll be your direct answer.
Yeah. And I think after you have, we wrote about this in our newsletter last week, like you have to have those conversations to identify those problems, because you probably have, I mean, if you're like, a lot of people are the ideal audience and they write to them too. Not everybody is like that though. So you may have a good idea, but like you'll have a better idea when you talk to 50 other people through a DM conversation, email conversation, or a short call. More tactical thing that people do is set up like a consulting call link, so people can pay you for $100 for an hour of your time, and they're going to talk to you about their problems and ask you to try and help them solve them. And that's the easy way to get paid for this type of research.
All right. If you could only monetize your audience one way for the rest of your life, which method would you choose and why?
Oh, that's a funny question, but I don't review all the questions before, so this is a tough one. So I'll tell you what we've done and what we have now. So we do events, like live in-person events, conferences. You can check out newmediasummit.com to see our conference. We do cohort-based courses where like I teach live programs with communities and live sessions. I've done regular courses. We've done kind of memberships and advising services where I do like weekly coaching calls and one-on-one calls. And we've done agency services. So maybe those are like 4 or 5 different categories that I actually have the competence to do. Maybe there's like better models out there, like having a software company or owning an LLM or something, but like I can't execute on that. So I have to pick one of the ones that I can execute on. So I think if I had to just do one forever, it would be cohort-based courses, because I'm very confident in my degree to help a lot of people through this and make a real impact on people's lives. And I'm very confident in my ability to sell those. And cohort-based courses are very easy to market because there's a hard deadline, so you have built-in urgency, and you can also have a limited number of spots, so you have built-in scarcity too. And so that makes the marketing that type of product much easier versus a product someone could buy 24/7, like a membership, for example. So I would do cohort-based courses. I would do like 4 or 5 cohorts per year that are 2 to 5 weeks long each. And I think I would make a lot of money that way. And I don't know, maybe I should do that because my life would probably be a lot simpler if we just did that one thing, but I'm always tempted to do something else.
All right. What's one contrarian opinion you might have about the media industry or newsletters specifically that most operators might disagree with you about?
So I'll do 2, because newsletters, and I'll do media industry. So newsletters, subscribers from low quality, low cost, low intent sources are almost worthless and might hurt you more than they help you. By this time, we probably have a video like just all about that at this point. So things like paid recommendations, co-reg, anything like that is crap. Like usually the financial value of those subscribers is like 10 cents to 70 cents. And you're usually paying more for them. And even if you break even, it's not really worth it because they have a lot of spam complaints and they have really low engagement. And that hurts the overall engagement and deliverability with your entire email list. So just don't use those. Like less is usually better if they're higher quality as far as the subscribers that you get. It's way better to have like a quality list of 5K than a crap list of 50, 100K.
All right. Another subscriber question here. I live abroad, but interested in launching a local newsletter in the US. Do you have any recommendations on how to get started?
You got to figure out what problem you're solving, what you truly want to create content about. I don't think it has to be focused on one geography. I think you could live abroad and, create content about a topic that's relevant to most of the world. Now, you're primarily going to have a Western audience, probably most of the subscribers in the US, because there's a lot of people who read newsletters here and have money to spend on things. And so it's a valuable audience to have. But I wouldn't think about it from a geography first perspective. I would think about it from a problem first perspective, from a value proposition, and figure that out. and then write for a Western audience, and don't worry too much about where the readers are. They're going to be mostly US, Canada, UK anyways, and more around the world. I don't know where this person is from, but I would just say like you got to get the language and the copyright so it feels like it's written from a native English speaker, because I have seen some people try and do this who struggle with that. But I think that's easier than ever now because of AI, ChatGPT, Claude. Like if you have a lot of typos like I do, like you can get those fixed and you can change the styling with AI. So I think it's more possible than it's ever been.
Next question. How do you approach when a competitor copies your exact playbook or content strategy? What's your kind of initial response or pivot? How do you think about that?
I haven't actually seen that happen as far as content strategy and content. After working in like the content media industry for a long time, I've rarely seen that happen. And so I'm kind of skeptical about, how much that's happening to you. I think your content should be so indispensable, so good and unique to your audience that it's almost impossible to copy. And if someone does copy it, it looks like a blatant ripoff, and you can call them out or do whatever you need to do privately to get that taken care of. And so I wouldn't worry, like make better content so it can't be copied. That's what I would say. I do think products and services get copied a lot. People have tried to copy like our products or our services, and that's a little bit different. And like what I would say to that is try and be customer obsessed, try not to be competitor obsessed. So instead of thinking about, okay, this person copied our product or our service, like how do we make it better? How do we make it cheaper? How do we add more features? That's usually going to hurt you. But if you just spend more time focusing on what your customers want and just obsess over them, you will outcompete. And so that's hard to do, but that's what we focus on.
All right, last question, Matt. Kind of on a similar note, how do you think about standing out in a saturated market? Is it better to be 10 times better or 10 times different?
Different is better than better. There's a lot of saturated markets that are really great to be in, especially if you're in the media space. Like usually I look for markets that are saturated and that have a lot of other publications or creators in them, because that means there's a big audience that has a lot of money to spend. In the media world, that's generally a good thing as long as you can be different. So a lot of people I talk to, at least in the past, have said things like, I'm going to make the next Morning Brew. It's, get smarter on business and tech in 5 minutes. Like and then they try and be better than Morning Brew. They never really do it. Or maybe they do, but even if they do, no one cares because there's already Morning Brew, and Morning Brew kind of already owns that value proposition, that job to be done for their readers. But if you make something, 10 times different in that same market, you can build a business around that. And if you look at like Lenny's newsletter, for example, like serves kind of a similar market, people who work in tech, in business and for tech companies. Instead of delivering like 5-minute summaries, he does weekly deep dives that might take 20, 30 minutes to read, but they're extremely useful in helping you do better at your job or get a raise or promotion or become a better person that works in product design, marketing, things like that. And he's built like an 8-figure subscription newsletter business from that. There's endless examples, but yeah, be different, don't be better. Try and create your own category within a large and lucrative niche. Don't try and make up your own niche that just never existed before.